It's been nearly 2 weeks since we learned that Josh Levy, the former U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, announced that he was going to be stepping down with the new Trump administration rolling in. And already we have a new appointee, Leah Foley. Now, the question that's on many folks' mind, myself included, is she going to pick up where our boy Josh Levy left off? Hello, and welcome back, roommates, to Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, and we are not law enforcement. We are just people who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including this news that broke yesterday. Massachusetts, you got a new U.S. attorney. Josh Levy was the former U.S. attorney for Massachusetts. He stepped in after Rachel Rollins stepped down. I did a whole video breakdown on that, as well as on this PDF, this bad boy over here, which is infamously known as the Morrissey letters. Essentially what led to the hostage-like video that he had posted saying Colin didn't do it, he wasn't in the house, stop harassing all these witnesses in the Karen Reed case, yada yada yada. This was the first one, and since then too, actually, just to refresh your memory, the first ADA, Lynn Beeland, has also stepped down a couple of months ago as well too. Her name came up quite often. So it was actually initiated, from my understanding, by Rachel Rollins. Her and Morrissey did not get along. They had some history, had some beef. Again, I went over this in my past video. Now, flash forward to 2025, Massachusetts, we got a new boss. She was a longtime federal prosecutor. And she's going to be really cracking down on a lot of what his administration is going to also be focused on. I'm not going to be talking politics here, but I wanted to give you context. I don't care what your political beliefs are. We're all entitled to them. But she's going to be focusing, it seems like, on immigration and rug trafficking. Foley, who was the deputy chief of the Narcotics and Money Laundering Unit. So that's interesting too, because we've seen a lot of money scandals, people in law enforcement often attached to these crimes as well too within Massachusetts. Let's see how that goes. Has worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts since 2006. So she's very familiarized with, I guess, how this office is run. I mean, that's almost 20 years. She was considered for the top role, so this was interesting. Somebody asked too if she was a Republican. I'm assuming she is. Considered for the top role under the previous Trump administration in 2017. Acting Attorney General James McHenry appointed Foley on Monday. She is still expected to undergo a formal Senate confirmation process. By appointing Foley so quickly, the administration is signaling they have a clear idea about what they want to get accomplished in the time that they have. And like I said, they've already been cracking down on at least the immigration issues, which we're not going to talk about. But under Foley's leadership, the office is expected to make prosecuting rug crimes nothing worse than a rug dealer a top priority, which experts say often involve defendants who are in the country illegally. Brian T. Kelly, a former federal prosecutor, said in an interview Monday they'll be doing a lot more immigration type cases. So that seems to be focus number one, which means a lot of things in regards to the probably hundreds of other cases, probably several hundreds of other cases that they are currently combing their way through. That was my impression, is that office is just overloaded with so many different cases, and it's trying to figure out what's the priority now, what is in line with, now that we have a new president. Trump's going to want to make a lot of big moves earlier in. People want to see some of these things, some of the things that he promised, start to fall into place. So I feel like when it comes to tackling things like police corruption, that might take a little bit of a backburn. The former chief of the rug unit, Mendel, worked closely with Foley for the better part of a decade. He said he expects the work of the rug unit, which has been one of the most successful units in the office for years to be brought into the spotlight. Prosecutors in that unit received daily and weekly reports from the police departments across the state that reflect what Mandel described as a constant stream of overdose deaths, which is, I mean, it is a huge epidemic in this country. No doubt about that. The fact that rug trafficking unalives thousands of people per year, many organizations are operated by people in the U.S. illegally, is likely to make the issue a top priority for Foley and the Trump administration, which I couldn't agree with more. It just seems to fall in line with a lot of the things that we've seen unfold over just the last 48 hours, really. It's only Wednesday. While Foley comes from the rug unit, just like imagine her office being a rug store with all of these just like vintage rugs hanging down. And it always makes me think of 90210, where before the Peach Pit After Dark becomes a thing and Steve is trying to convince Nat to buy the rug store, and like Dylan's there and Dylan's recovering. There's a lot of parallels to that actually now that I'm thinking about this and calling it the rug unit. So the rug store. She comes from the rug store. Her elevation to the top job does not mean a reduced focus on other areas within the office's purview. Lelling's tenure as U.S. Attorney is perhaps best remembered for Operation Varsity Blues, when criminal charges were filed against parents accused of making bribes to get their children admitted into high-end universities. Those white-collar crimes are expected to remain a priority under her leadership. I think things will probably even out, said Fisher, who worked with Foley. So we're getting a lot of people who worked with her. You'll see a return to your traditional federal crimes, even though I'm not sure the focus will be on that in the very beginning. Exactly. So here we go. Here's the juice. Under Rachel Rollins and later Joshua Levy, the two U.S. attorneys nominated by former President Joe Biden for the role, those more blue-collar crimes like rug trafficking and immigration enforcement were not as much of a focus, obviously. Instead, he saw the administration make public corruption a priority. Under Rollins and later Levy, the U.S. Attorney's Office pursued criminal charges against Matthew Farwell. So this was the biggest thing, right, to really unfold. The Boston City councilor who was accused as well of orchestrating a kickback scheme. So there was a lot of that as well, too. But I could have also seen Leah Foley kind of taking that on based on her history and experience with money laundering. So typically a new administration circulates a memo to the U.S. Attorney's offices across the country laying out its priorities for the coming term. Under Trump, that memo would likely come from Pam Bondi, his pick for Attorney General, should she be confirmed by the Senate. While the individual U.S. attorneys have tremendous control over what cases their offices pursues and the resources, experts say they expect a close alignment between Foley and the Federal Department of Justice. The match this time around is going to be quite close, Mandel said. I would expect to see a high degree of coincidence between what the department says it wants and what happens here in the district. But it's just as critical for the U.S. attorney to focus on issues critical to their district. It's there that Foley's deep experience working out of the Boston office will come into play. So I'm sure she also has a lot of connections to a lot of the players and figures involved in. And I'd be curious to know what her relationship, what if any, she has with Morrissey himself. I'm sure they've probably been running the same circle. So, and she probably got the lowdown from Joshy Boy. So who knows? But this is going to be interesting. And I always and I hope she is a bad mamma jamma in the office taking the reign on these things. It's always refreshing to see. She'll hit the ground running, Fisher said, adding he expected a fairly seamless transition between Levy's administration and Foley. She knows everybody in that building, and I'm sure she's heard everything as well, too. So that does get me a little bit excited. Like I said, I don't think that, in my opinion, the focus for at least the beginning stages of her lead in this role is going to be focused around, exposing police corruption and really digging into what's been going on in the Karen Reed case. they already have things in place moving with Matthew Farwell. So I think in that regard, that will definitely take precedence for now. But I'm fairly certain too she wants to probably see how this next trial shakes out. What evidence is going to come into play. Can they pull and more fuel to the fire? It takes years. It takes years to build these cases, guys. And again, this isn't just a local showdown. It involves multiple people involved in multiple agencies, high-ranking officials. So people who have deep ties too, as well, to their communities and within the agencies that they work with. I mean, it's Morrissey himself. He's been a senator. He's been the DA. He's been around, and it's gonna take a lot to bring his office down. It's gonna take a lot to bring these other clowns and characters involved in the Karen Reed film experience. So with that being said, I would love to know what you think as well too. Do you think that she is going to pick up where Josh Levy left off? How quickly do you think that's going to happen? I want to know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. And please, as always, be nice to each other, especially with what has happened today. Just because there's no face to the name or the commenting on something of mine or a different video or in a live stream that you're viewing doesn't mean that that person isn't real or doesn't exist. They do. You don't know what they're going through, and it's best to just not engage with hateful comments. So keep it nice, respect each other. And again, as more updates unfold with the unfortunate events that happened today at the Tennessee High School in Antioch, I will keep you all informed. I'm probably going to do a video on it later this week. So please stay safe, take care of yourselves, take care of each other.